Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio. You are about to join a frequency that will open your mind, expand your heart, and activate your spirit. Thank you for joining Kelly Meehan, Spirit Baby Medium and Master Energy Therapist. Kelly believes in the power of the Spirit Baby. She speaks with babies in spirit before life, in the womb, and after life. She supports, teaches, and guides others to tune into the intuitive and mystical parts of life for greater wisdom. Join her in meeting your soul baby and build your connection and relationship with deep love and trust. Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio with your host, Spirit Baby Medium, Kelly.
Welcome to episode 65, July 12th, 2019, Energy Medicine for Health and Wellness. What is energy medicine? How can medical intuitive awareness provide insights? How can energy support your medical needs? What health practices aid in whole body wellness? How can you be your strongest health advocate? Such a great, fun topic, and I know recently the podcasts have been shifting around. I had a very intense June, a lot of rebooting of the health system, of the emotional and spiritual body. I feel what happens when we're in states of stress and even sickness. You know, what are these things of sickness about? And, you know, I'm always very curious about it. And I think this is going to be a really good topic to look into more. What is this connection of energy medicine, even within conception, pregnancy, birth loss, but even just overall as a human being? What is the practices of energy medicine, and how can you collaborate with them with conventional medicine? And this is the thing I love about energy medicine, is that it's non-invasive. It has no side effects. I mean, the side effects will probably be, you know, positivity and healthier, more vibrant energy of health. But there's no really, you know, intense side effects, you know, that I've heard of and that I've studied throughout the many years. And I feel like it's really important to begin with what is energy medicine, because we're taking the word energy and medicine together, and there's kind of, I feel like, a kind of idea of what medicine is. It makes people nervous, I feel like, because they're like, what does that mean? Is it medicine like Western medicine or Eastern medicine? You know, there's so many forms of medicine, and it seems like in a lot of developed cultures, the real tipping point of the size of Western and Eastern, and especially in, I should say, in America, is, you know, Western medicine is a very big, why it's called Western, conventional medicine, why it's very popular, even though there's so many side effects to a lot of techniques and procedures and even substances and things that are taken internally. And yet people have lost their sense of health advocacy, I would say. And of course, I was a victim of that when I was younger, but I was also under the care of my parents. And I had a reflection, actually. I was at this amazing, my amazing ladies retreat that I shared in my newsletter, because it was just so profound to me to just gather women together, go to a cabin and just have a great time, connect, you know, paint, do ceremony, and hike a waterfall is like, oh my gosh. And when I was there, there's a lot of discussions about vaccines, right? Because that's the hot topic with our culture now. You know, the overabundance of it and what's inside them is really scary for many people. And then it brought me to this realization about my own health, talking to some of these women, and I started getting in this conversation about, I just didn't know if I've ever really spoke it out loud. For me, this is my experience, the damage that antibiotics has done to my body over the years. And when I was very young, I started antibiotics very young, probably 1 or 2, and then I was in the hospital at 8 years old. And how many 8-year-olds are going to the hospital all the time with stomach stuff? Like, it was really kind of sad that I think about it. And it was very scary to have IVs in your arms and be so young. And was I really that sick? What am I going to the hospital? Like, children are supposed to be healthy, right? And, you know, multiple sicknesses later, even into high school, a young adult, and, you know, taking the advocacy of my health. So I had IV therapy, I had IVs in my arms, I still have the scars in them, and I would take all these medications at like 16 years old. And then the doctors would say, well, how are you feeling? I said, I feel the same. I felt sick. I didn't feel any better. Well, they were like, well, maybe it's Lyme disease, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. I became this experiment, and I just kind of went with it. I didn't really know. And then when I moved away from my family, far away from my family, from east to west, I became my own health advocate, and I was still, dabbling with conventional medicine, and I felt like they kept failing me over and over. And it was because I had chronic issues. So the chronic issues is the big thing, right? It's like, who's going to help the chronic issues? I didn't have a broken bone or a cut that needed a stitch. And so I would get, more medication. Oh, you have vertigo, more medication, which didn't work, made me feel sick. Okay. And then at some point when I was really, really sick and I got the diagnosis of lupus in 2000, then was my realization that, conventional medicine cannot help me. And the doctor pretty much was very clear about the dangers of all these medications that they could put me on. And he was a great old man. He's probably passed away now. He was very old at the time. That, and what an honest thing to say. And I remember walking away, getting a book about it, connecting with my partner, and just feeling anger, feeling sadness, feeling confusion, feeling a lot of pain in my body chronically. And, I tried a little bit of the anti-inflammatories, and it made me sick. And then I went and I just shifted everything over to acupuncture. I did Moducare, which is this pill from Germany, and Wobenzym, which is another. It was like, because it's not overactive. It's an overactive immune system, so it's not about giving echinacea, all those things, and all, It's more of just how do you now keep it calm and not wanting to fight everything. This is why the body is swelling, because when you have an injury, your body swells, and so literally your body doesn't know everything's being injured, and so you're hurt, right? Let's talk about a metaphor for that one, the deeper energy around that. And I actually did work on the deeper energy, and I talk a little bit about that on my website, on my medical intuition page. My journey from sickness was a long time, and the energetic part of it was my biggest healing component, not just the acupuncture I was doing forever, it seemed, but working with someone one-on-one, hands-on, someone that could read the energy field, someone that could see through timelines, someone that was going to sit with me, hold me, and love me in a space to allow me to kind of unwind this big tangly energy of what I've created over time. And I know people get so upset about that, and a lot of the new age, well, I don't create my sickness, I don't create my illness. And, I feel like we need to just get out of our egos and see that we are responsible for our bodies and the world. And, sometimes tragic and traumatic things do happen, but it's not about going into pointing fingers. It's about, okay, this is the experience that happened. Now what am I doing with it? Am I going to succumb and crumble into this dark cave, right? Or am I going to uplift, shift, and bring in a new connection and awareness to who I am and to what I'm supposed to be in this world? So I do feel like we do have choices on some level, and it's harder for some people. I mean, I've watched it with people and friends and family where they just couldn't have the mental, psychological capacity to know what that was. And it's very hard to see that and witness that, because everyone has their own soul path. And we do need help. We do need community. We do need to uplift and shift each other in that way and create that. And I feel like that's really important. And so bring it back to, energy medicine, I feel like it saved me. It's made me more connected. It's made me more trusting of myself. And I'm going to talk more about that. Like, what is this health advocate, and how do we trust our bodies when we're making choices? It could be very, very scary when you're in a world, in a community that says you go to the doctor when you have a cut on your finger, when you're deathly sick, or when you're just mildly sick. It's like, I'm going to give you the power. You have the answers. And we know that doctors make chronic mistakes all the time. And then people get mad, which is really weird to me, because they're human beings. Of course they're going to make mistakes. As a medical intuitive, I have diagnosed more issues that were more accurate than doctors. And I've, connected with people, and we've seen that. And so I'm like going, okay, well, doctors make mistakes. And as I've shared before in the book about medical intuition with Dr. Norm Shealy, MD, PhD, and he shares that he's done studies where the accuracy of medical intuitives and doctors were neck and neck. And he said maybe a few percentages of medical intuitives had a more accuracy, which, yeah, I feel like with medical intuition, there's no, this doesn't have to be a polluted kind of understanding of anatomy. It's like I almost feel like there's a fresher perspective, a little bit anatomy. Believe me, I have an anatomy book, and it's not my strength, but, sometimes like I see things like, I don't know, what is this tissue, this little piece of vein, or what is this going around here? And so I, look at the book and learn about it. And, I always thought it would be amazing to have the future of, collaboration with medical intuitives and doctors. And I feel like that's what Dr. Norm Shealy and Carolyn Mace were hoping and holding the energy for quite some time. And something shifted in the work that they're doing. They're doing different things, still in alignment of spirituality and energy medicine, but just something's different about it. That's kind of my vibe on it. But it's such a good book. It's called Medical Intuition, A Science of the Soul, Your Awakening to Wholeness. And it's C. Norman Shealy, MD, PhD. And the foreword, I love that, it's by Carolyn Mace, of course, and her own medical intuitive kind of insight. So what is energy medicine? I actually looked this up to get a really good foundation, because I could just say, energy medicine's blah, 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 blah. But I want to give you a little bit of the background. And this is from the ncbnih.gov website. So it's natural. I should get you, see what those, NHB, did I type that right? We'll get that in just a minute. So energy medicine, as they define it, is a word coined by 3 researchers who gathered at Boulder, Colorado in the late 1980s. This is defined as an energetic and informal interaction with a biological system to bring back homeostasis in the organism. And meanwhile, in the 1990s, the National Institute of Health, that's what it is, NIH, the official arm of health policy and implication in the United States of America, defined areas within complementary and alternative medicine through 5 subdivisions. 1 is body-mind medicine, 2, biologically based practices, 3, energy medicine, 4, manipulative and body-based practices, and 5, whole medical systems. And thus, they share here, subtle energy is another term used along with energy medicine. So when we talk about you see the words subtle energy, energy field, bioenergy field, aura. I feel like those are all kind of similar terms, and maybe they can be broken down and separated, but I always feel like they're very similar. It's like spirit baby, soul baby. So this, to me, is kind of the same thing. And, sharing this quote here, the energies activating a person are subtle or are very low intensity. Such low levels may not be measurable at this time. This statement implies that the energies we are talking about are of a physical kind. There are 4 basic types of energies in physics. They are strong and weak forces at a nuclear level, gravitational, and electromagnetic forces. I don't want to get too sci-fi on you, because I could be like, what is this? Can we bring this down to a more understanding? With physics is like, a form of science, and quantum physics is another part to that. But electromagnetic, I feel like we hear this word a lot. What is this electromagnetic field? Not just of objects, cell phones, things, houses, energy power plants. Different things have electromagnetic fields. And some would say that everything has an electromagnetic field, even a plant, a person, an animal. And the field is, I took this from Google. The electromagnetic field, a property of space caused by the motion of an electric charge. A stationary charge will produce only an electric field in the surrounding space. If the charge is moving, a magnetic field is also produced. An electric field can be produced also by a changing magnetic field. I hope, again, that doesn't sound confusing. I read it, I'm going, okay, so bring it back to our electromagnetic fields we have is emanating from our body. You can see this through certain therapies of, images. What is it? Curtain? There's a type of photography that can catch the electromagnetic phases. What they use a lot for energy medicine as a part of the data and the research to show. And also that there are different ways of measuring that, right? There's different tools physically, but at the same time, now here's where the mystery comes in. Yet there's another notion of subtle energy, and this I feel like is important. that some energy may not be physical. Like, yes, there is an ability to measure physical energy. And I know for myself, and other empaths and clairvoyants out there may have had this experience as well, is where I feel it physically in my body. Like I swear it's so strong when I feel energies around me that if I had it physiologically measured, I guarantee it would create a response through certain parts of my body. That's how like guaranteed I am. And so there are some things that are maybe beyond the physical. And what does that mean, right? And so that statement raises many questions. If it's not physical, then what is it? Can it be measured? Is there a physical manifestation of the non-physical energy? And their example is prayer or non-contact therapeutic touch. In this example, there's no measurable physical energy that seems to be taking place in the interactions, although the effects of prayer and therapeutic touch are well investigated and reported. The energy type and hence the mechanism of action can only be surmised. The energy of chi or prana is not measurable. However, the interaction of chi or prana with the biological system may be deduced, right? For example, their example is the flow of prana, the tissues are healthy. In qigong or yoga, maybe the thought of stabilizing the flow of prana in the body. And so the body is showing a response, right? So let's say it reminds me of the intention experiment, The Power of Eight, which is another really great book I'm going to share if you're curious about it. And I love Lynn McTarget, The Power of Eight, Harnessing the Miraculous Energies of a Small Group to Heal Others, Your Life, and the World. We actually, me and the moms have a little Power of Eight group, or maybe it's Power of Six group. And we do this through actually texting in certain people, with cancer, with sick child, with whatever people have happening. And the beautiful thing about the intention, maybe we'll do a whole podcast on that topic, because you don't have to have any superpowers. We have so much connection and awareness to bring, and there's so much capacity to heal that we're still trusting and opening to. And so coming back to, energy being, physical and other energies, it's hard to measure because, prayer, therapeutic touch, intentional experiments, right? And so when people are receiving prayer, what is that about? And why are those people healing when there's no physical ability to measure it? And I feel like data and information has changed, because I know that there is so much different research happening around looking at, the effects of prayer, looking at the effects of therapeutic non-touch, right? It's like energy medicine sent from far away. And, how does that affect the physiology? Because that's all we can measure, right? This is what we're measuring, is the body. Like, what's the body's response to having less stress? And it shows. And that, that is a part of energy medicine. And it reminds me, I feel like this is a really good example, is many years ago, I remember entering into my somatic psychology program, and there was a pre- and perinatal psychology program. And one of the topics that was discussed was that every baby has a memory, right? There's memory, or human being, we're adults, we're like, where's our birth memory? That the autonomic nervous system at the very moments of conception, after those weeks of life in gestation, that has our memory, and then it translates to our brain, and then we have memory. And so that's like what science is saying, right? The birth psychology of science, it's a newer science, but they're studying the conscious awareness connection of baby and body and pregnancy. And what I would say is, I'm going to take it into the soul part, because the soul sees what's happening. The soul doesn't, and this is another thing that a lot of people actually always ask me about: when does the soul enter the body of baby? And so I always see the soul as walking around the body. It's not just hanging out inside the womb of the mother or the person who's pregnant. I feel like the soul is ongoing. It's moving. It's in many places at once. And so when the memory of birth, is it really the autonomic nervous system that brings that into connection, or is it that the soul saw it the whole time? And the soul knows. How can it not? And of course, we know the soul. How do you measure a soul? How do you measure a spirit? And this is where science doesn't have a strong place in. I almost feel like spirit and science, we intermix them together at times, but why collectively Why do we have to prove so hard through science that something is possible? And if we know it and feel it to be true, this is where it gets tricky. And there's some millions of different experiments and validations, and people like that. It makes them feel comforted by it. It makes them feel like it's believable or there's a truth to it. But I would, challenge others to be curious and to kind of reflect on that you're needing that proof or not at times to know what is your truth and what you feel and how you connect with the world of energy and energetics. And as many know that come to me in private space as well as through my teachings, my favorite word is curious, because I feel like when we can be curious, we open up another portal, a frequency of awareness and connection that allows us to receive something different, receive something new. It allows energy to change. And so that, you can always Google more about energy medicine. Of course, the last that I looked, there was over 600 forms of energy medicine, which is like, whoa. I mean, there's acupuncture, there's craniosacral, there's pranic therapy, there's polarity therapy, there's integrative energy therapy, there's Reiki, there's more touch involved, there's less touch involved. Therapeutic touch was one of them. What else would be considered energy modality? There's so many. Color therapies could be more of an energetic modality. Magnets. There's so many more I'm missing. I know it because there's 600, Some somatic psychology practices have an energy medicine component to it. Qigong was one of those, energy medicine practice, and self-energy medicine. It's not just about receiving it from someone else, right? A lot of those modalities may involve a lot of receiving from someone else, being of service to your own energy consciousness, but most of all is your willingness to be there at the same time. And this is where I'd like to introduce Energy Medicine by Donna Eden. And she's extremely well known in energy medicine. I love her energy. It's so sweet, so loving, so pure, and it offers her work. You can Google her work too. The way she does things is nice and basic. It's very grounding. And so she discovered a long time ago with her partner this world of energetics and put it into action. I believe she has a school. She creates ways to de-stress and how do you move your body in energy. So there's a lot of physical movement with her technique. Another form of energy medicine, speaking of technique, was tapping and EFT and TAT. There's all those kinds of modalities as well. Just remind me of that, because I wonder if she uses some of that too. But just seeing your body in the world, physically connecting, moving the energy. It's not just about meditating into the energy, which is another great connection to build and to be a part of. I'm a big advocate in that, meditating and seeing and being with how energy is changing around you and how you're manipulating it, how you're working with that. And I've seen women. Energy matrix is another one. I knew these are all just going to start like spurting out all these different energy modalities. There's a woman and a few women I've worked with who had very challenging conceptions, going more than just about 10 years with some people, and getting deeper into the energetics, really just pulling down into their energy in a way. And when I'm talking about energy, it's not just, I'm just going to sit here, place my hands and just, what's going to happen? It's really involved. It's like very deep. Like I'm going to almost go to another reality to change the frequency of where I'm at. And it's not in the mind where the mind is fooling anybody. It's like this other soulful, multi-dimensional experience. And I see women in that space move into conception, but that's a very hard space for some people because your soul body may be very connected to earth. And you have forgotten. I feel like we get amnesia when we come and we forget the fullness of who we are. And maybe that's a part of the journey we're supposed to kind of re-remember. I don't know about you, but throughout the years, as I've activated this connection to the energetic world and this ability to see and know things from in between, it has allowed me to step deeper into this part of myself that doesn't really have any logic. And and I've accepted that. And it's powerful, I feel, because I'm like, this is the true me. It doesn't matter what other people think or how they feel, whatever their judgment is, whatever their fear is. I know the fullness of me, and at the same time I know the mystery, because I feel like I have my own answers for myself at times, right? And other times I feel like I don't know. I'm not sure. And I feel like when there's a lot of not sure, uncertainty, I do feel there is a lot of fear around that. It's like, oh, what is this fear? Why is it stimulating this kind of reaction or connection? And this is why I love curiosity, being in the openness of it. And then body awareness, body discovery, even body development, mind development, connecting. I call it where is your inner teacher, right? I feel like that's an important one. And this is where I want to go more into, we talk about energy medicine, even just a few modalities, and, how you're accessing that is then the next piece. And it is a very self-discovery and awareness inward. And meditation is really amazing for that. And, I found my body discovery and awareness through support of another being, and who I'm still connected with and I still work with more than 10 years. Because for me, that made me feel like home, like family, like I had a connection to something. And I've worked with many different healers, less now, because I've become very more particular on who's holding space for my body, where their energy is and where their consciousness is. Because I do feel like we are all at different levels, right, of our own consciousness. And sometimes we don't connect with people, and sometimes the energies just feel off. And it doesn't mean people are better or greater. It's just I feel like there's different energies for different people. And, being your own health advocate, I want to bring it back to that body awareness, body discovery, this is a hard one. I see it all the time with women, especially with infertility issues. I see it with women in pregnancy. And, where's this foundation that we've lost, this foundation of you are your inner doctor and advocate. It's okay to trust your intuition. It's okay to practice more of a holistic mindset, and it's okay. You have permission. Or if you're feeling like you're more attached to conventional medicine. But I feel like we have to be very aware of that. What is it that we've lost, that we just give our bodies to science, give our bodies to medicine, like, here, help fix this. I don't know what it is. It brings a quality of disconnect. And so, we can only know so much about our bodies. You don't have to know how you're breathing. You don't have to know how your uterus is working, but it can be very helpful to sit with the emotions that are in these parts of your body and the different physical feelings that come up. And that's where that body-mind connection really gets to develop. And even checking in, I've had women before, like, put your hand on your abdomen and check in, like, where is your womb space? And if you feel like your mind is overthinking or scattered, like, really, this is where the practice begins, settling into your body, paying attention. I remember when I was in school, somatic psychology, I want to say it was her name, something Weaver. She's really well known as a sensory integration therapist, just, gosh, I should have her name, and her name's slipping. And she was just this little like woman with this long, beautiful gray hair and just like a little magical being. And she had us all laying on this floor, and she was like, I want you to look at your partner and watch them breathe. I was like, what does that even mean? This was so an interesting part of the, connecting with even someone else's body, paying attention to someone else's body, and seeing their movement, seeing their breath, seeing how they connect. And, with somatic psychology, that's what a lot of it's about when you're with your clients and you're watching their body and you're connecting on that level. And I kind of collect on that level, not really on the body as much as more for me the energy of the body. And so I go into the energy because it seems more connected for me to do that. Like, this is why when I work with people, I don't have to see them in person. I don't have to see them visually. I see them. I see their true energy. I see people's true energy fields, and I see people's soul bodies. And I see the gifts that people bring, and I listen to their babies when they want to share things. And I just see the story from there. I feel like for me that works the best because I don't want to be polluted with seeing movement, seeing what people look like. I just want to hear the voice or even have the name. It can even be a name. But more of have the voice, just connect with the voice, connect with that energy. And it's a skill I've created over time. And many moons ago, I was like, did not think I could do that. And I was like, okay, and this is where energy is energy. If energy is energy and it's all around the world and things are happening, you don't have to actually see people. and eye to eye. It's kind of nice. People like that, and I'm not opposed to that. But I do feel like in the work that I do now, more is just about tuning into their energy and really seeing it and feeling it. And there's a certain way that I do it. I like to look at different sections of the body from the crown down to the feet. And I like to enter different areas and see, is there an issue there? Is it an organ? Is there emotional? And that would be more of in a private session where it was more of a smaller session. But if it's a longer session, I have a whole diagram of the human body where I'm really sitting and being quiet, like almost soaking in the energy of this person. Like, is there an issue in their crown? What is it? Is there an issue in this? Or, what is the issue? Because sometimes there's a lot of stuff happening in the energy body. And, it could be very dark. And other times it's not. It's good. It's fine. Things are working. There's little stuff here and there. And it's different for everybody. And it just depends. And, but I feel like, being the advocate of the health person, like being your own, I feel like I want to keep saying that because, again, I feel like it's like a pull and tug, like back and forth, like, can I be my own advocate? And I found that it was really powerful for me was when I moved into pregnancy, and I was an advocate in both my pregnancies to make the choices that I want. And of course, with my first pregnancy, I was very scared, but I was like, I don't want to do this test. I don't want to do this. And why can't I trust my intuition to know what's right for me? I'm not the only one. There are many people doing this. It's almost like you're not allowed to do that. I'm not allowed to say, hey, you know what, in 2 of my pregnancies, I don't want any hands in my vagina. Do I need them? No, you don't need them. Okay, don't stick things in me. Don't put things in me. I want to keep the energy clear. I want to keep it connected. There's no reason to. There's no emergency, right? No, there's no emergency. Okay, can you respect that space? And can I call in someone, a midwife, a doctor, that also respects my space? There are doctors that do respect that space, and there are midwives that respect that space, and also the opposite. Nothing is ever, one way or another. It's not like midwives are better, even though I'm a big advocate and loving midwives, but there are some shitty midwives, I'm sure. There's some that are not good. It's not everyone, just like doctors. But I hear a lot, especially in the city I'm in, that, with doctors, it's just, such a clinical, I don't know, stressful environment at times. I feel like if we can just make those spaces more comforting and loving. But I know with doctors, there's certain emotional cues they don't want to have, which is really interesting. And at the same time, maybe there are some that are more softening into that connection. And I remember in my pregnancies, especially in the second, I was like, I have to be my advocate. Nobody lives in my body. How can, not my partner, not, the relative, not the doctor, who knows what's going on inside me? And this is why in conception is really powerful, to really look into the energetics, energy medicine, using that, applying that to the fertility journey. Again, non-invasive, helpful, supportive, great collaborative of other things that are happening. And then you move into pregnancy, and there's got to be a lot of trust in there, because you're like, okay, now there's this being here, and I have stuff from maybe the early life, past life, lineage, so there's so much happening along the gestation, along I would say the spiritual pregnancy that's in development. And there is going to be so much mystery, but how to be your own advocate is really important. And I've heard it, I've heard women say, oh, I know I shouldn't have done this, or I should have done it this way, even with miscarriage, like, oh, maybe I should have done it this way or that way. But we make mistakes, and we have to admit that we make mistakes with our body advocacy. We do. And how do you now learn from that and come back to yourself? And I've seen women, especially in conception, be very abusive with IVF and hurt themselves and then come back to naturally conceive. And it's a very much of a mind game, right? Because what just happened? But there's something in that. There is something. There's something where I feel like we're always learning and expanding into. And if we can just pay attention and listen to those things, then we get to really kind of up level the next part of the path of what we're doing here. And I know some would argue, well, do we have purposes? Do we not? I do feel like every soul has a purpose. And we're here just kind of collaboratively, activating it at the same time individually. And so next time you go to the doctor, or you want to run to the doctor, really sitting with your body and tuning in, is this fear speaking, and this is intuition. And that's a whole other practice, because a lot of women I've seen whether they're friends or whether they're clients, have come and said, my intuition is telling me to do this, and I'm sitting back as an outside person looking, going, that's not your intuition right there. That's interesting that you think that's your intuition. I don't say that a lot of times, depends on the friend. And I'm going, you think that's your intuition, but it's actually your fear. How interesting that fear has persuaded you into believing that it's your intuition, right? And so intuition does not operate with a lot of talk, a lot of confusion, a lot of back and forth. Intuition is present, it's there, it's swift, and that's it. It's a light in the heart, it's a power, it's known. And I know for me, even when there's chaos and I'm in distress or I'm in spiritual crisis, and I'm going, oh my gosh, underneath I was like, there's the intuition, but man, I just want to knock that intuition out of the way and just let the fear just swim through and just take over. And that's okay too. There's a message in that. There's a connection in that, because sometimes when our fears are elevating into our consciousness and really affecting our life, what is that? What does it want to say? What is the voice it wants to have? Especially when it comes to health, right? Emotional health, physical health. How do you then pay attention? How do you not feel betrayed? Again, another practice of your body advocacy is, starting with intuition, working with that trusting connection. What is that connection of trust? I teach that a lot. In a lot of the work that I do, I have different ways of really bringing in the levels of what it means to trust, not just in, once in a while. It's literally an everyday thing. Waking up, putting your feet on the floor as you wake up and look, what do you trust in that moment? Where is your trusting energy? Do you trust yourself to walk out of your bedroom? It begins from there, I feel like, and then it kind of falls and weaves into places all around your life, and then you get to see how you get to put them into action when you have to make choices that are big, especially in conception or in pregnancy, or even having to deal with a loss, miscarriage, termination, even later loss, stillbirth, infancy loss. It changes you in such a deep way, and because it's supposed to. You're not supposed to be the same, but you're also not supposed to live in a shell of fear either. And, a lot of people make choices by fear, and I never say that that's bad, because sometimes that's what happens, and sometimes there is more repair. So say something happened with fear and more fear and more fear. There's just a lot of repair around it and bringing yourself back to balance, because your body wants that. Your psyche wants that. Even your soul wants that. Your soul's along for the ride. It's all this other stuff that gets in the way. And so next time you go out to that doctor or you go somewhere, really checking in with your intuition before checking in with your body, paying attention, and starting a body practice. Where is your connection of who you are and your energy? How does it move? Where does it go? What are you allowing for yourself? And in that, I feel like as you are building intuition, body connection, not just emotionally and physically and, of course, spiritually, I feel like as all of that is moving into the more psychic part of you, even, developing your psychic awareness with your body, excuse me. And again, trusting, practicing, more than anything, remembering. And it could be new to you, or it could be something you just need to be reminded of. And I feel like, that's important. And I know there was this thing going around, which I thought was it's so fitting to talk about, is, I don't know much about it, but everyone knows Ellen DeGeneres, right? She's like such an amazing woman, and what she's presented, and her energy and her generosity. And there was a thing going around, I feel like, I don't know if it was on Facebook or somewhere, and I was trying to Google it and find more information about that. Her father died at 92 years old, and he never saw a doctor. And I'm sure people are going, is that even possible? He never had medication, never went to a doctor. And I think that's a really good thing to look at, because people are scared, right? And people die at different levels. I know people that live in the hospital and die young. It's not going to make a difference whether you're going to the doctor or the hospital. And it really depends on your situation, your sickness, your disease, wherever you're at. But also your soul has an agreement to when it's ready to depart. I know that's a whole other conversation, and that's a very hard one to go into, because we do have death amnesia, and there is so much mystery around that, because we're not supposed to know all those things, right? I almost feel like if people knew those things, it would be probably a different world. But, I love this idea, like 92 years old, never had a vaccine, never went to the doctor. And I know people that like have a cough and they're crying over a fever and it makes me laugh and run to the doctor. I'm going, really? I'm like, okay. I feel like, I think when you've been through a lot of physical pain in your body, hardship, even childbirth, it creates a different level of strength within the person to go, okay, I can do all that stuff. What's up here? And it does. It's horrible to be sick. It's horrible to be in pain. And we have to feel into the is it valuable to run out, or do I just need to go into a bubble? Because even though it's very physical, there's such a huge emotional, I feel like, piece to it that's often missing. I joke at times, but I'm not joking, is that if we would deal with our emotions more, we'd see less doctors looking at certain emotions to clear, to find balance. And we're emotional creatures, men and women, and all the genders in between. We're emotional beings, and as being emotional beings, we have to be addressing that all the time in different ways, and we're not allowed to in so many ways, especially for some genders, right? It's like you're not allowed, or you're too hysterical, or whatever comes up. And so, I always feel like if we dealt more with our emotional space, we'd be more healthier and more vibrant, and we would see things. But sickness, it's here, and there's a lot to talk about that. I feel like that's a whole other segment of connection to talk about, and that would be more of that medical intuitive kind of connection. I actually do have a Facebook page about medical intuition. You could see it on my website. There's a way to click on there and join it, and we go into discussions about what I'm going to discussions about cancer, like the body wants wholeness, but cancer happens. What does that mean? And even viruses. What is this whole thing about viruses now? What is their purpose? Or parasites or bacteria. It's not just this organism that just takes my body over. Why is it that you can get a room full of people and give them all the same strain of sickness, and maybe half of them get sick and half don't? Why is that? If germs are so contagious and we're so, scared about that, why then isn't everybody not sick? And so it brings in, I feel like when we do this, we bring in curiosity and a certain vibration of awareness that allows us to then kind of see a different part. I feel like when we're opening up portals and connecting with different ideas or different energies, it does change us, and it's supposed to. And this is why, I love the idea of, body health advocacy, energy medicine, how it can be valuable not just in conception, pregnancy, or healing loss, but just for the life of the person and for children. Children love energy medicine. They just take it in. Babies love energy medicine. What a beautiful thing. You're in pregnancy, you give birth to your child, your son, your daughter, and you share energy awareness with them at a very young age. It's like a natural part of who they are. You brush your teeth, you do your hair, you take care of your energy field. And I know a lot of women especially that do connect with me, and even in this podcast, I feel like are very empathic. So how are you taking care of your empathic energy, knowing that your child or soon-to-be child is in that space? Like, how are you going to nourish that, nurture that, and show the love of that instead of the battle of it? It's like, oh, this is who we are, and this is amazing, energy beings, and there's so much we don't know what's happening, and what do you know? And we always want to ask your kids, what do you know? What do you think, and how do you feel about this energetic kind of connection or this psychic expression? I feel like I can talk forever about the energetics, medicine for health, wellness, pelvic care, conception, pregnancy, birth loss. And so there'll be definitely more episodes that are looking at that inner medical intuitive that is you. How do you continue to elevate that and bring it into the next healing space, in the next, balance in your life that allows you to be who you are, your fullest expression, and not to be cowering by fear. Like, it's to be safe in your body, to be in the highest expression of love. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and leave reviews. Thank you for joining Spirit Baby Radio this week, and please check out my newest book, Sacred Communication, A Spirit Baby Journal. You can learn more about my service in supporting people all around the world in private one-on-one sessions, online classes, programs, and private VIP retreats. And you can look for me at kellyannmeehan.com, and more to come.
This is Spirit Baby Radio. Thank you for joining Kelly in the energy of awareness, love, healing, and soul communication. Please join the next episode at www.soulbabycommunication.com.